guys. Welcome to Jammin and Jammies, the podcast. I'm Megan Barker. We are sitting down with our favorite music creators, industry leaders, finding out how they got where they are, getting valuable insights into the music world. You can watch the interviews online or stream the podcast. Just check out jamminandjammies.com for all your jammy needs. We are sitting down with a singer-songwriter here in Nashville named Bragg, and we have crossed paths many times, but we have never really sat down and had a real conversation, so I'm very excited. Let's welcome him. Jay, how you doing?
That's good. Good to be here.
The crowd goes wild.
You. Yeah. Woo.
We got to just start at the beginning.
Yeah,
Where are you from? How'd you get into music?
Let's do it. I am from the Northeast, from New England.
Yeah.
Grew up in Massachusetts, first 18 years in Massachusetts. Went to college in Vermont.
Okay.
Burlington, Vermont. And then graduated in 2003, moved back to Massachusetts for a minute, and then I moved to Maine, which is where I lived for 13 years.
Yeah.
So I lived in Maine for 13 years prior to moving to Nashville, and I've been in Nashville for it's going on 8 years now.
Yeah.
And so.
Is it a 10-year town?
Yeah, that's what they say. It's a 10-year town. You know, I think there's certainly some truth to. I could talk about that for a long time. About the 10-year town. But yeah, no, I think generally speaking, it takes a while to get your footing.
Yeah.
Here in Nashville, I think it takes. There's a lot of. I think there's a lot, like for me. I think moving into town, I had to deal, and I think everybody has to deal with certain pressures of Nashville.
Yeah.
Being like kind of in the big leagues, and like there's a lot of, there's kind of a way of that things have always been done here, and kind of resistance to changing that and all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I'm happy to delve deeper in. But I think if you're gonna, I probably won't leave before the 10-year marker.
Is Nashville home? You
Nashville,
bring that up. Is it
Nashville
home?
is my professional home.
Okay.
So I was just
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I was in Maine a week and a half ago playing some shows. Played 3 shows up there with my old band, north of Nashville, which is still going strong. So we do like some reunion shows every year. But when I return back to the Northeast, I'll be going actually back up this weekend. There's no doubt in my mind that is still where my home is, in my heart's home.
And your family and your loved ones and everybody.
I got blood relatives and my friends are my family, and my mom is down here. My mom followed me to Nashville.
Oh, so did mine. We are so lucky.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that.
No, and she reminds me of that.
I was gonna say, does she resent it?
She reminds me that how lucky I am.
And you are.
Yes, no, for sure. And my dad is in Florida.
Okay.
So, but I have brothers and sisters, back up in Maine and Massachusetts, in New England in general. But yeah, I'm a New Englander at heart. But I'm down here for my work life primarily.
Yeah. Well, take us into when you first got to Nashville.
Yeah.
What did you do for work? How did you get into music? Like, 'cause you're right, it's a whole new world when you get down here.
So, big fish in a small pond in Maine. Had the cushiest life.
Yeah.
Was playing, really the sweetest gigs, like on the water, opening up for whenever like major acts would come into town, because the talent pool is thin.
Yeah. So you were
if you're established, you get asked to do these sweet gigs. But I just felt I kind of felt like I wasn't challenged enough.
Yeah.
And I had just personal ambitions that I wanted to see through. So when I first got in, I left a really cushy life and a very successful band and songwriting career behind. Came here and I had about like $5,000 saved up, which doesn't go very far in Nashville. So the immediate things I did when I first moved into town, just to make ends meet, was turned my vehicle into an Uber car.
Nice.
Started a landscaping business.
Wow.
Which I landscaped in high school and college in the summer times. And I brought all my tools. My landscaping boss in Massachusetts, for my birthday, before I went off to college. Well, no, before I went up to Maine.
Yeah.
Gave me like pretty much everything you'd need to start a small landscaping business. And thank God he did that, because that's what I did. And I started that landscaping business just in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just like
just for extra cash.
Taking care of yards and landscaping for, mostly like elderly folks who just can't do it.
Right.
I did that. I worked a little bit at a juice bar in Belle Meade, which was the first time I actually had a boss that wasn't myself in
it's hard,
maybe
isn't it?
like a dozen years.
It's so hard.
Once
you get a taste for being your own boss,
tough.
It's so hard to go back.
It was very humbling.
Yes.
Super.
I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. But I just did what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And like as an aside, when COVID hit and all the gigs dried up, I called up all my old clients for landscaping jobs and said, "Hey, I'm back in business." And I just picked up I have this tattoo right there is my pickaxe, my landscaping pickaxe from my grandfather's. It's like my blue collar tattoo, But I just
you do what
went
you gotta
back
do
to work,
That's right.
but I do try to avoid having a boss at all.
Side note.
Costs.
Here's a side note. How does your yard look?
Well, my yard looks fine. It's our landlord has a guy, Keith, who cuts the lawn, and I do, and I look after it pretty well. But yes, it looks good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Nashville.
Yeah.
You're doing what you got to do. COVID hits a few years in. I mean, tell me some of the highlights. Like, why didn't you pack up and go? So many people come to Nashville. They're here for a couple years, and they're like, all right, I'm out.
Well, so the first year was really a struggle, and I think as it is across the board for any artist moving here. And then year 2, I started getting some significant gigs. About year 2.5, I got asked to go on the road with Alan Jackson.
Tell us all about that.
And so I started playing at his bar downtown, AJ's.
AJ's Good Time.
Good Time Bar. And so I got in there right when it kind of started, right when they opened. So they were hungry for talent.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty open schedule. So the whole, and the way that gig even started was somebody who had the 2 to 6 gig down there, just a solo acoustic, got sick, and a friend of a friend recommended me, and they called me up and they're like, "Can you be down here in an hour and do a 4-hour show?" And I'm like, absolutely. So I went down there with my bass drum, did my whole one-man band thing, all my harmonicas, and
wow.
And I did my one-man band show for 4 hours, and there was 5 people there. I'm like, this is gonna be my first and last gig here, because they didn't make hardly any money. But whatever I did was good enough, and they asked me back. Wow. They gave me that weekly gig, the 2 to 6, for a while, and then they ended up elevating me to full band, and I did for a while. I was doing Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Those are good shifts.
For sure, and because of my success there, released a record, funded my first solo record through basically tips.
Yeah.
The tips I was getting mostly at that one bar, and made my record Honky Tonk Dream. That was doing pretty well, and then Alan was going on tour, and he was like, "I'd love to have some of the artists that play at AJ's open up." And they're like, I remember getting that call. They're like, "Jay, Alan was wondering if you'd like to come open some shows for him on the arena tour." And I'm like, Well, let me think about that.
I can't imagine getting that call. What'd you say? Let me check my schedule. Let me think about it.
I try to be cool about it. I'm like,
man,
that sounds pretty. I think I probably work that in. You don't want to go over the top,
A little too overzealous.
Yeah, exactly. So,
wow.
So I ended up doing 4 gigs with Alan in arena shows, all sold out shows.
Wow. Did you do it solo?
I did it.
Your one-man band thing?
I did it with a 4-piece band.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where were the shows?
We did Oklahoma City, Madison, Wisconsin. We did Grand Rapids, Michigan. And what was the other one? Tulsa, Oklahoma. Did I already say Tulsa? No, Tulsa.
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City
and Tulsa.
And I believe Tulsa. Yeah.
What an experience!
Yeah.
What'd you learn from that?
Well, a lot of things. I learned how rare of a opportunity that is for an unsigned artist. That's pretty rarefied air.
By the way, that was the most Nashville story I've ever heard.
Oh, really?
Where somebody is sick and a friend of a friend recommends you to fill in for a gig.
Yeah.
That's the most Nashville story.
That's the thing. That's the thing is you got to be ready to say yes to everything.
Everything, especially when you first get here. Once you're here, maybe 8 years, you could afford to be a little pickier. When you first get here, those first few years, it is a grind.
And a lot of people were in my ear being like, "Oh, don't play Broadway at all. Just avoid it like the plague."
Oh man.
And I have a lot of thoughts on that. I mean, I think a lot of people can really lose themselves down there, lose their artistry, and really. I mean, I could write a book on that subject, but the thing is, you can if you can use it to your advantage. And I'm one of those people that, case in point, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if I didn't say yes to all those gigs at AJ's. And then I was, in front of, thousands and thousands of people. I had my parents were able to come to the shows, which was such a moving experience. Alan invited me and my dad on his tour bus before one of the gigs just to hang out for a little bit and say hi, have a photo op, just really, really special stuff.
Well, I cut you off, but you were talking about, did you learn anything? Like, what's something you learned from this experience?
From going on the road with Alan is
I imagine those
were
the biggest shows you've done to date.
Yeah.
Up to that point.
Yeah. The power of saying yes, the power of, of exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
The power of I think I was considered for that because I showed up early. I stayed late. I never complained. I didn't, bitch about. Can I use foul language?
Hell yes.
I was positive. I had a good attitude. Even through I had some horrible situations, with other musicians. At AJ's, one of my drummers tried to fight me on stage one time on my first band gig. That's a whole long story, but I handled it with poise. I stayed positive, and I think just saying yes and just working your ass off and just having a really good attitude endears you to people who believe in you.
I really think a good attitude, is so important in life in general, but I think it's extra important in the music industry because if you're not a good hang or people don't enjoy being around you, they're not going to want to help you or call you when an opportunity comes.
Right.
So good for you for having a good head on your shoulders.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talented people, extraordinary talented people that have bad attitudes, and I don't call them.
That's
It's. I'd rather deal with somebody who's maybe little lighter on talent, but heavier on character.
Absolutely. Character is everything.
100%. So, but I also, got to see firsthand, Alan has built, an extraordinary loyal fan base, and got to meet all those folks. And, I also learned the value of how to keep good musicians. You know, you got to take care of the people that are working hard for you. Lift them up. You know, you're asking them to. You know, you're like the player coach. You know what I mean?
You're the leader.
Exactly, and you have to make sure that your musicians. I mean, a simple little thing like. You know, I always like it when the front person introduces the band. You know, because for one, I think it's good for the audience to know who these guys are. At least attach a name to the face.
Yeah.
But also, it lets the band know that you appreciate them enough to take time
and give recognition. Yeah.
The spotlight it's you might be in the direct spotlight, but you want to shine light on everybody, you know, around. So. Those are some really, and those are type of, you know, that's experience only. Like your run of the mill, you know, flavor of the month TikTok star is not going to understand those values of how stagecraft and how to keep a band, how to actually talk to musicians, how to talk to your audience, how to talk to fans, how to bring them into your heart, you know, how to be vulnerable, but also, you know, have control of yourself and self-discipline. All these different things that you learn from just doing it, you know, the 10,000 hours or whatever.
And we've talked a lot about this with a few other guests about the whole TikTok thing, and there's definitely pros and cons to all of it.
Sure.
But yeah, that's something that I don't think you can learn overnight. That's something with 10,000 hours, like you said. And, you know, we've heard a few stories around Nashville of some TikTokers that got their big shot, and they had never even played a show.
Yeah.
And I would love to get inside the mind of these label people. And again, I'm not saying that these people don't deserve an opportunity to get signed and go on the road and all this, but wouldn't you at least help them get some shows under their belt before you guys have them opening for some big... These are just my thoughts.
Well, but I think the labels are completely out of step and out of touch with reality. They don't know. Like, TikTok is basically the equivalent of Napster. You know, Napster was a major disruption to the music industry, top to bottom.
Absolutely.
And what saved the music industry really was like Spotify in a lot of ways. People like to badmouth Spotify, but if Spotify didn't come in and monetize recorded music, we would still be on LimeWire just file sharing. And there would be zero value. At least, you know, there was a system where you could get all this music and there was, you know, that the creators would get something and that the public would understand that creativity isn't just free.
That's right.
So,
it can't be.
But TikTok is another disruption, and like labels have, you know, they're in structural decline. Like the radio, especially country radio and Nashville labels are really struggling because the old model of minting a star, you know, signing somebody who's just up and coming and kind of grooming them, and, you know, getting them on, you know, the Jimmy Kimmel Show or SNL and getting, you know, written up in your regular, like, publications and things like that. All that whole formula just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that institution is now, like, dead and in decline. So these label people are like, okay, well, what are people consuming? And like, all right, this guy's got, you know, 6 million views, let's sign him. Like, not really knowing how, and not understanding the fact that, you know, a 15-second clip on TikTok is not going to equate into a 20-year career, you know.
And maybe they're not looking for that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and a lot of them are not, you know.
But shouldn't we be? Shouldn't we be?
Well, you know, you want, like, you want longevity.
Right.
So the label doesn't really care about longevity. They could, you know, they churn them out.
Right.
You know, pump them in and churn them out as quickly as possible, just as long as revenue keeps on coming
That's
in,
right.
so they can keep on paying their bills.
And I get that to a degree.
You know what I mean?
I totally get it.
That's been in the pop world for years. You know,
Yeah.
The artist has to be mindful of that it's a long game, and just because you're a flavor of the day, there's a 95 to 99% chance you'll be forgotten tomorrow, especially with so much in the channel, in the channel. Nothing stays any longer, and like, I mean, even the biggest stars, for instance, I remember Beyonce's record came out, and it got glowing response from all the regular publications. Probably a great record, but it's crazy that like none of her music charted in like the Spotify top 50. So like, yeah, the art was great. She's got a big fan base. She's got obviously a huge machine behind it, but it got no traction. People really weren't listening to it en masse. So even an artist like Beyonce can't get traction. So what does that say about your average Joe who's just making music in their living room? These are really, it's uncharted waters.
That's exactly it. Is we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know what we're doing.
And what works today might not work an hour from now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's more than ever. It's so important to just follow your gut, make great music, try to enjoy it along the way, because so much of it is unknown. A lot of it is luck. I mean, and I really do believe that luck is, what do they say? It's preparation meets opportunity or something like that. But there's still that element of an outside force that you can't control. So I say just follow your gut. What would you say?
Exactly.
So if you were giving somebody some advice in today's industry.
I would say concentrate on the essence rather than the trappings. So like what I mean by that is concentrate, like your goal should be to make great art, not to land an endorsement deal, which is what a lot of people are putting the endorsement deal, the influencer side of things. That is the main goal, and music is just the vehicle that they reach that goal. That may work in the short term, but if you want to have a long-term career, if you want to be like, I look at my biggest. I'm going to see Bruce Springsteen on Saturday in Foxborough. You look at a guy like Willie Nelson. These guys who have been doing it, like they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s with Willie. If you're going to look for the long game, the music is the essence, has to be the first and foremost, most important thing. And all that other stuff, if it's great, it may follow. But you also got to be careful about endorsements too, because once you take that apple, it can be forbidden fruit, because you could be stifled with what you can say, because now you have corporate over your shoulder.
Got to be careful what you sign in this town.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it used to just be like record deals or management deals or whatever, but now it's true. You could have contracts thrown at you if you're successful on TikTok or Instagram right now, like as an influencer. You got to be careful what you sign. People send you crazy shit.
Yeah.
If you read the fine print in some of this stuff, it's crazy. I have friends that are way more successful online than I am, and I've seen some of it, and I'm like, I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you called your lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you called.
Yeah, having a lawyer, like, artists are terrible at reading contracts and things like that.
Well, they're deliberately, you can't understand it.
Manipulative.
Yes.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Double, triple negatives, and you're like, what? So, but yeah, and I do get the allure of having to try to be an influencer before music.
Right.
Because you have to build everything yourself now. You've got to build your own fan base, and if you shove your music down people's throats in every single post, it gets old. So people try to do other things.
People tune out to hype. If it's just a constant hype machine, people tune out.
So you've got to put other things in your content.
And I think too, like, what is fascinating, like, I think I like it when other artists evidence their humanity outside of their whatever art that they're doing. So say if, like, somebody's really into fishing or cooking or, has a pet, and
Yeah.
you know, like these like kind of quirky things that evidence real humanity outside of like just the hype machine of what they're trying to sell.
Like, let me into your life.
Yes.
Let me into your
That
life.
I think that is, it's not only smart, but it just shows a well-rounded, three-dimensional person.
Well, that's what people fall in love with.
Yeah,
People fall in love with
absolutely.
characters on TV because they know about their life. So you're kind of like a character on TV
Yeah, you
in
want
that way.
you want that backstory. You want to
Yes.
know that there's, you know,
Something
they're
to relate
three-dimensional.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw an interview with Hannah Dasher this
Mm-hmm.
morning online, side note, and she was like the queen of that during COVID. She said she started cooking online because everyone was so divided and all this craziness was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, everybody can agree on coleslaw and tater
Yeah.
tots or whatever she said. And it was brilliant. And it brought all kinds of people together. And it was so great for her music in the end, too.
Like food is one of those things that binds us all together.
It really is. Life's simple pleasures.
You know, and honestly, like humor is
Yeah.
is another thing that is like this kind of common language. You know, there's taste that comes into it, and, you know, with food too, obviously, literally. But yeah, food is one of the. I mean, I love to cook. If I wasn't in the music business, I would probably be in the food business.
Oh, wait, let's talk about that. So what do you like to prepare? You're Italian. You
So
were talking about it
I
earlier.
mean, Italian.
Do you go like this?
Yeah, exactly. Pasta fagioli. I have the best pasta fagioli recipe.
Wait, what is that?
Pasta fagioli is, you know, the great Italian food is all peasant food. So pasta fagioli would be something that your southern Italian cultures would make out of basically things that are in their cupboard.
Gotcha.
You know, probably most often during the winters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally it's bean and pasta soup.
Oh.
But you know, good. Like I just made just a pasta sauce the other day. Just went back to the basics. Good Italian food is all about. It's simplicity. Using the proper ingredients and the timing.
Yeah.
So like a simple. Do you want to hear about like a pasta sauce?
I would love to.
Okay. So.
I'm a foodie though.
I went through a long time without ever. I wouldn't allow a jar of store-bought sauce.
A true
in
Italian,
the house.
right?
But there are some good ones out there that I'll cheat and buy just to save time. But but really, like, you got to start. It's very, very simple, but you know, you start with your olive oil, good olive oil, you know, diced onion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to dice up some garlic. But the thing is with the garlic is you can't let it saute very long.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, it's like 15 seconds,
Oh.
and then because it'll start to brown very, very quickly, and then once it browns, the whole thing you might as well just start over because it will
Whoa.
turn bitter.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because
I just learned something.
yeah, garlic becomes bitter very, very quick. Once it gets overcooked and browned, you got to start from scratch.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll ruin your whole sauce. So once you get that like kind of going and get it pretty translucent, then you got to go like San Marzano tomatoes.
Okay.
You know, Cento
The
San
real
Marzano.
deal.
Yeah. And you take the tomatoes they're whole tomatoes in the can. Open up the can, but they're whole tomatoes. So you take them in your hand and you just squeeze them and emulsify them in your hand, and you just squeeze them into your.
Because that's how the peasants did it.
Exactly. It's all peasant food. It's
Yeah.
all peasant, and then from there you take some basil, some fresh basil, and you don't
My
cut it.
favorite.
You
Oh.
don't cut it. You, with a knife, you just rip it. You just rip it, and when you rip it, it releases some of those oils in
Flavor.
yeah, which releases some flavor. So I mean, these are old world recipes, simple, but you know, and then a lot of people, it's like making an egg. It's simple, but it's very. The timing has to be just so. You can
Yeah.
easily screw up an egg.
Easily.
You know,
I
it's
do it all the
really
time.
actually making an egg is one of the hardest things to master, I think, in the kitchen. It's a good rudiment.
I bet
cooking.
they start with that in cooking school. I bet they start with
Like
something
making an
rudimentary, like an
omelet?
omelet. Yes.
An omelet that's a labor of love.
Yeah.
It truly is.
It really
if you want to
is.
show somebody you love them, make them an omelet.
I love
That's
that.
that's better than flowers.
Well, songwriting is kind of like cooking. I want to hear about your songwriting process.
Yeah, so it usually starts with lyric ideas. I come up with lyric ideas all the time, just usually doing mundane things. I come up with my best ideas walking. I do a lot of walking.
Really? Okay. Outside?
Yeah. I have a puppy, and she requires, about at least 4 miles of walking a day, probably.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time walking, and I'll process things in my head, and something will come in there, like, oh, that might be a good idea for song, and I use my note app on my phone and jot down, and just jot down the ideas and come up with as much as you possibly can in the moment while it's there, because it's like catching lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
But usually starts with a lyric idea, and usually the lyric is musical in some way. So some lyrics just feel like, they're a waltz. Some lyrics feel like they're a ballad. Some feel like they're more up tempo. Mm-hmm. So if you can, when that divine inspiration comes, if you have any ideas for melody, I always try to get that down as well too on my walk, and then I'll go back, when I get back to the house, and try to see if anything comes.
Thank God for our phones, right? Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh.
Yeah.
Because now you can just like record any idea you have.
But that also can work the other way too, where you have like a billion ideas, and it's hard, to pick out the good ones, because
what a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, exactly. But you think about, like, before these smartphones, these guys, these Paul McCartney, came up with the melody of Yesterday and wrote Yesterday, and without any assistance like that.
Yeah.
He said, if it's a good enough idea, it'll stay in your head.
I do believe that to a degree. I really do think there's a difference. I mean, and I don't know about you, I co-write a lot.
Yeah.
And when I leave the co-write and later that day I'm humming it, I know it's a good song. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that the ones you don't remember are bad, but I do think it's a telltale sign. Mm-hmm. So yeah. For sure.
And I did a lot of co-writing. I don't do as much anymore. My process is just, I wouldn't want to, I'm uncomfortable putting people through my process because it is so unusual, and it requires solitude. Yeah. Really. For me to write, I need absolute silence. I need, sometimes I have to get up, leave, go for a walk, think about it, come back. And when I have the pressure of other people in the room, I'm not at my best. Yeah. I really am not. And like I've
you
written
need to know yourself too.
Yeah, for sure. And I've done some great co-writes.
Oh, sure.
And like some songs, that are my best songs were co-writes, but I haven't done a co-write in a long time. And I write a lot. I write, daily. Mm-hmm. So I right now, I really, and it's hard. Like, inspiration doesn't come like at 2 p.m. when we're getting together to write. It's like right. I can conjure it up and churn it out. When I think of all my favorite writers, 100% of them, none of them co-wrote. Right. None of them.
Well, it's a totally different kind of writing, I think, because I wrote for 10 years by myself before I even co-wrote. Now I co-write all the time.
Yeah.
I still write by myself, though. Yeah. I think it's apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. I think they're two different animals. Yeah. And that's just me, but it sounds like you're the same, because a lot of my favorite writers, John Mayer, writes by himself.
Right. Yeah. And I have mad respect for people who can just turn that thing on like a light switch.
Yeah. Well, that's the expectation too. It's a job in Nashville, for sure.
I've had a lot of co-writes too that like I feel like when I do co-writes now, I try to go with somebody else's idea rather than my idea because I'm so married to my idea.
That's smart.
And I think a lot of what my idea, my initial inspiration got completely distorted and ended up being something that was kind of weaker.
Yeah.
Really wasn't as true to the nucleus of the idea and of the brilliance of that kernel that I had. So I'm more like, well, what do you got? You know what I mean? And I like that.
I think that's more fair to the co-writer too.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your new music.
So I have been working on, as you know, I've done a Christmas charity concert for a while. I've always, so my dad is still performing to this day. My dad is awesome. He plays like 2 to 3 gigs a week at nursing homes and stuff.
Oh, that's great.
I have always wanted to make a Christmas themed album, and I've done a songwriter's Christmas now. This coming year will be third annual.
So exciting.
And it really kind of like inspired me in a lot of ways. Not just like, songs about specifically the holiday, but more of the spiritual side of things, of like the idea of compassion, of caring for those less fortunate, of being community minded, of bringing people together, so I'm like, I've written a lot of Christmas songs myself. I want to do a full-length Christmas record. And so I had this idea. I've been wanting to do it for a long, long time, and I finally was like, this is the year I'm going to do it. And so I got together with this guy, Brooks Sutton, who owns a studio called the Studio Nashville, not too far from here. Great studio. He's an amazing musician. He's an upright bass player. I
think I did a show with him.
He's amazing.
Yes.
He's one of the best musicians I've ever worked with. And I booked some time. I wrote some songs, and we got in the studio, put together. There's 10 different musicians on the record.
Wow.
And it is like the album I made is literally something that I think the biggest inspiration sonically was what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Like around the holidays and even outside of the holidays, like different elements. So you got a little bit of New Orleans music in there. You got a little bit of northeastern, like more New York jazz. You got a little bit of country music. You got some Memphis flavors in there.
I can't wait to hear it.
There's my steel player is Hank Jr.'s full-time steel player.
Nice.
Banjo player is from the Steel Drivers,
Wow.
which is one of the best bluegrass bands ever. Bass drums. What else do I have on there? The guitar, keys. It's pretty amazing. So it's 8 songs that I wrote and then 5 classics.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do we have a release date?
And it's called Light It Up. So
it's called Light It Up.
Light
What
It
a
Up.
cute name.
So Light It Up is actually the title track I just released on Friday. And Light It Up, the song, is not a Christmas song. It's a gospel song.
Aww.
And Light It Up I wrote that song after the Covenant shooting, which is a horrific horrific tragedy. 3 9-year-olds, and I don't want to like get like really depressing here.
We don't need to go there.
But 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults lost their life senselessly and horrifically. And I have a lot of feelings on how we should avoid, or how we can help avoid these kind of problems in the United States of America. And there's this great proverb. It's a Chinese proverb that says, "You better to light a candle than curse the darkness." And I love that.
I love that.
And with my music, and just being a person in the world, it's very easy to curse the darkness. There's darkness all over the place. And, online and in our conversations, a lot of times that's what sucks the most oxygen, is cursing the darkness, is like bitching about
everything,
okay? And I can do that too, believe me,
We're
I
human.
do.
But that's what Light It Up is about.
I've also been given this gift of music.
Yeah.
And one of the great joys of my life is seeing the joy that it gives others. Okay? And I know firsthand that music can not only lift your spirits, but it can save a life.
Absolutely.
So after that tragedy, I wrote the song "Light It Up." And the lyric is, when you see the darkness, you got to light it up. When you feel the darkness, you got to light it up. There's sadness all around, but it can't bring us down if we have the courage to light it up. And second verse is, when they're telling lies, there's a lot of lies going around out there. You got to light it up. When they criticize, you got to light it up. Because when you shed a light, fear has nowhere to hide. When you have the courage to light it up.
That's beautiful.
And then the last verse is, truth won't be revealed until we light it up. We can't start to heal until we light it up. Won't you help me be the light I want to see? Use the shine in me to light it up. So
that's gorgeous.
It's basically this hymn. It's a gospel. It's a prayer, really, of being the light, and adding brightness, because although you need to fight against injustice, that needs to happen. There also needs to be optimism. We need to find the hope. Sometimes it can be hard, and music is one of those things that can help you find hope.
And that's what Light It Up is.
That's what Light It Up is.
Good for you,
that's what
man.
that song is. It's literally about just lighting it up. And I didn't write it to be like preachy. I really wrote it as a challenge to myself.
I like how you called it a prayer. I think that we all need a prayer.
It is a prayer.
We all need to come together and light it up, because you know what? The social media, the internet, we all talk about this all the time. It brings so much darkness.
Yeah.
You turn on the TV, the news, so much darkness. So
it is. And
good for you bringing some light.
They thrive on that.
They do.
They know full well the algorithms of hate and anger and and outrage sell way more ads than positive messages. They
watch The Social Network.
Exactly. I mean, and that shit is like really dark.
It is.
Like, and knowing knowing the results, when you really look at the results of depression and suicide and the direct links to social media, and them knowing that, it's really
well. That's the expression: if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. But thank you for writing a beautiful song that will lift us up. We need that.
And I feel like I needed it. I wrote it specifically after I attend a church in Green Hills called Woodmont Christian Church, and one of the members of that church was one of the girls who died, 9-year-old, and her family attended the church. And I remember him, Clay Stauffer, he's the senior pastor. He said, Evelyn Dickhouse was her name. She was a shining light, and she would want us to spread that light around a world that needs it. And I went home and I wrote that song. and so that song is for Evelyn. That's her light, you know. And Clay Stauffer he sent it over to her parents the other day, and I just hope that Evelyn can, you know, looking down somewhere and can smile knowing that people are lighting it up for her. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Well, it's beautiful, and I love that it's on a Christmas album. So
and it's
going to
be
more
the title
cheer.
track. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the title track. So Light It Up is out. The Christmas album, the full length will be out. You know, it will. I will have to probably wait till Halloween is over, right? And then,
okay.
Yeah, begrudgingly.
Right. Everybody's putting songs out now in October for Christmas, and I'm like, oh, I love Christmas music, but it's so much.
So the first, probably the first Friday in November.
I love that. That's perfect. Give me Halloween.
Yeah.
Just give me Halloween,
Exactly.
and then I'm ready.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's literally November 1st is when all the Christmas music starts in the stores. So,
right. Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
And you know, it's in. Like if you go to any of the if you go to like Target or Walmart or something like that, I mean they start putting Christmas stuff out in like early October.
It's true. It's true.
But I do want to give enough time, you know, so you get a couple of months, and it's going to be on vinyl. I'm doing a vinyl run.
Congratulations! That's so
which
exciting.
I've never done before, and it's certainly an investment. But I think all my favorite Christmas records are on vinyl.
That's right. And you've waited years to do this project.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
might as well do it right.
And it's like, you know, the even if you don't have a record player, it's, you know, I really invested so much time and effort and thoughtfulness and used some really great artists to design the cover. So the cover itself is a piece of art, you know. It's really you know, exciting stuff. So
that's so exciting. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And do you know when your Christmas show is?
Yeah, it's going to be December 3rd at 3rd and Lindsley.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Songwriter's Christmas tickets are already on sale for that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll link it.
Yeah, well, I'm still putting together the lineup itself, but we have some pretty awesome acts gonna perform, and it's gonna be it's going to benefit the W.O. Smith Music School, which is a music school here in Nashville on 8th Avenue that gives music education to kids from low-income families.
Oh, I love that.
So, and I started a charity fund called the Gift of Music Project, and it's all about music education for kids who can't afford it, basically. And we're working with the Gift of Music Project, we're working with Napier Elementary School in the Napier district, which is like super poor. I've done some volunteer work over there, but we're going in, I think, mid-December, me and my fiddle player, and we're going to perform for the kids. We'll give a little Christmas concert in class.
I love stuff like that.
And we're going to give them all, like, some sleigh bells that they, you know, it's a little gift of music that they can take home. And
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, you know.
Christmas is the best time of year. I usually try to do something like that, too. It just, there's so many people who don't have light.
Yeah.
And it's so important to spread it. So.
Well, and you know, that's the thing is, if we can kind of get in that mindset, the other 11 months, I think we'd be in good shape. You know what I mean?
One step at a time.
It doesn't have to be just December. You know, that's kind of my life goal.
Yeah.
With my music and just my philosophy. You know.
Well, I love your philosophy on everything.
You know, and it's something so simple. Like I started, you know, one good deed inspires another one oftentimes. And you have this ripple effect of goodness.
It's true.
So what I started, because I do a lot of walking, I now, when I go for a walk, I take a trash bag, I got one of these grabbers, and I just go and pick up litter on the side of the road.
Because you can.
Well, yeah, it's so easy to do. There's so much litter in Nashville. It is so easy to do.
And you're walking anyway.
You're already walking. And not only does it make the community look better, but other people see, like, people will stop me all the time and be like, hey, man, are you just picking up trash randomly? I'm like, yeah. It's like, that's really great. Thanks for doing that. And, like, you know what? Hopefully they go. That fills them up.
You inspired them.
Yeah, they'll go and they'll do a good deed maybe when they get home or in the world. You know what I mean? So
spreading light. Something I've always said is if you have the ability to do something, you have the responsibility to do something. So those are words I kind of live by. Or I try to.
Yeah. No, and it's hard. You have to challenge yourself to live that way because we live in a very selfish society. Yeah. You know.
Well, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to. You don't have to pick up trash every single time you go for a walk. But just try. Yeah, I love that.
Take 5 minutes a day. Do a random act of kindness try to do one a day. It's easy.
That's 365 a year.
Another thing that you can do. Over like, say you're at Kroger. Checking out. Those people have. That's a tough job. Be like, hey, I just want you to know you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that.
Or even a compliment on their appearance. I think people light up. I compliment people all the time, and they light up. I'm like, has nobody told you that you look great today?
No, and it's a surprise. And it shouldn't be a surprise. Like but. It's just good. It's just putting light into the world. Yeah.
Well, we're all brothers and sisters, and I think we need to be reminded of that.
Yeah, we are, and we are interdependent on each other,
whether we like it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love talking to you. Hey. Thank you. This flew by. We talked about so much.
Yeah, this was great.
We talked about music and Italian food.
We'll do part 2 sometime.
That's what I've been saying to everybody lately because it just goes by so quickly.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a part 2. There's so much more to talk about.
Indeed.
Well, we'll touch base after the record comes out.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Awesome.
And thanks to
Megan.
Sunny. Shout out for Sunny's for having us. This is nice and cozy.
This place is great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. And Merry Christmas, I guess.
Peace and love. See you guys.